All right. So today's presentation is really effective job search networking during the pandemic holiday season. Hopefully, we're only going to have one of these pandemic holiday seasons in our lifetime, because we are certainly living through some historic times, things that you can tell your grandkids and they can tell their grandkids about. Let's hope that it's one of those once in a century type things. So a lot's changed during this year because of COVID, of course. And then while many things in our lives are not the same and have become more difficult, especially for job seekers, executive job seekers, that the situation has also created what I consider to be some opportunities that we could take advantage of. Not that we're taking advantage of the COVID situation, but we can use this to the best of our ability to connect with people that we haven't talked to in a long time and also connect with new people. So if you will look at the pages of the PowerPoint presentation, which is going to be given to you in a PDF, there are only 25, like 20, almost like an advent calendar. Think of it that way. But on page 2, you're going to find a picture of my 30-pound turkey that I cooked for Thanksgiving. Even though we only had our family, we actually divvied it up and actually went to my mom's house to drop off some stuff and my brother's house to drop off some stuff. So all of us shared all of our traditional things that we always make every year. And every year I always make the biggest turkey in Kansas City. So I just wanted to share that my turkey this year, because I didn't get a chance to share it live with the large family and friends that congregate at my brother's house every Thanksgiving. So you can take a look at that. And all right, going into it, and I'm on a, this is going to be an abbreviated, it's not going to be a 1-hour presentation, probably going to take a half hour or so, just because I've got a full day ahead of me and I want to get this done and get out to you today. So again, because there have been things that have become more difficult for job seekers, it's created some advantages, and one of them is online networking. It is something that people can do much more easily these days because everyone is used to Zoom. I've been on Zoom for, goodness, at least 4 or 5 years on a daily basis, and until this past year, nobody knew what Zoom was. I had to introduce them to the tool, and now everybody knows what Zoom is. So you can use Zoom to your advantage to actually reach out to people that you haven't talked to in a long time, as well as reaching out to new people and having almost like a face-to-face conversation. I mean, it is face-to-face somewhat. And if you watched our presentation on video interviewing and how to maximize and optimize your video presence, you're going to find that it's going to come across really well, especially in networking on video as well. Okay. So, whether you were just laid off or you were job searching even before the pandemic, it's a great time right now, in December, to help find a new job. Now, you've probably heard me say, I've shouted this from the top of the mountaintop for years, that historically, January is the biggest hiring month of the year, with 19% of all of the year's hires happening in January. And February is number 2 at 16%. So between the first 2 months of the year, January and February, those are 35% of all of the year's hires happen in those 2 months. Now, what we're seeing, just kind of, I've also said that this year has been, in 2020, has been very anomalous. So I'm not expecting those numbers to hold true this coming January and February. What we've seen is a very V-shaped recovery. However, we're starting to see it slow down. So in November and December, and that could be, and we're talking U.S. numbers here, and I know that there are a lot of people outside of the U.S. That haven't experienced the V-shaped recovery that we've seen here in the U.S. But we're starting to see that slow down. It very well could be that people are taking their eyes off of the job market, really because they are either getting ready for the holiday season, or, and usually the last quarter of the year is not a big quarter for job creation anyway. So what we've been trying to do is catch up from all of the millions of jobs that were lost in March. And so I really think that we'll still see some job creation in December, but it's not going to be very much. And the reason that you want to still be in the job market in December is because, number one, a lot of people take off they think nobody's hiring. So a lot of people take off the holidays because there's no jobs to be had. So they think nobody's hiring, therefore nobody wants to talk to me. It's actually what I found in the 18 years that I've been doing this is that it's actually the opposite. People want to hire you in January because January is the biggest hiring month of the year. So they're talking to people in December so that when they get a new budget in January, they can hire you the first week of January. So people who get those jobs in January aren't starting their search in January. They are also not talking to those companies in January. It doesn't happen that fast. So what you want to do is talk to the companies in December. And that's why I think that it's really timely that this message get out there, because one of the biggest ways to search for an executive job, really any job, is to make sure that you're set apart. Whether it's a job that is publicly posted, it's always better to have somebody from the inside that knows you, that can refer you to the hiring manager, or that if it's not publicly posted, which is 85% of all the jobs out there, that you can find out about those jobs through either old friends that you reconnect with or new friends that you make, new contacts that you make. So that's all happening this month. That's why it's so important that I get this message out to you this week. So it's, people, I would say one of the reasons that it's a great time to network online. Now, keep in mind, networking way back in the last recession, which was 2008, 2009, there were job clubs, there were networking hours. In other words, there were cocktail hours. People would network face-to-face in groups. That's no longer the case because of COVID. So you have to network online if you're going to do networking at all. So that could be in some meetup groups, perhaps online, on Zoom, for instance, but it could also be just one-on-one. So I think that one of the reasons that this is a great time to network online is because of the pandemic. People are more receptive to hearing from each other online right now. And people are more understanding, and they're more helpful, and they're less guarded when it comes to receiving messages from people that they don't know. I've actually found that to be the case. Our response rates when we would send out connection requests, when our clients would send out connection requests to people that would be in a position to perhaps make a job for them, create a job for them from scratch, it was trending between 30 and 40% prior to the pandemic, prior to COVID. And then it went down in March and the first half of April to around 12 to 16%. And that's acceptances of the number of connection requests they would send out. And now, and it's been this way since summertime, it's now back up to 30, 40%. And depending on the person and their targets, they could be getting 70 to 90% connection rates. So people are very open to connecting with people that they don't know. They're less guarded. They're more open to making a connection when it comes to receiving messages from people that they don't know, or unsolicited messages. So this creates an opportunity that didn't really exist a year ago, and it wasn't as easy. And it's also created the opportunity of reconnecting with past colleagues that you wish you had stayed in touch with. It's really a good reason. It's a good opportunity to reach out to not only those past colleagues, but also out to new people. So think about it this way. You're always looking for an icebreaker at the beginning of any conversation to warm it up, because that's how you create rapport. And I've talked about creating rapport and that first 5 minutes of a conversation as being so extremely important. Well, when you're looking for either a commonality or specific flattery, which are two of the best ways to create rapport. When you think about a commonality, there's nothing that brings us together like COVID, like talking about your personal COVID situation, really more asking them about how they're faring. You know, how has it affected their work? How has it affected their lives, their family? Are they staying safe? And it's a reason to connect with someone, and it's a good reason to contact someone. So reach out to tell them, for instance, if they are old colleagues that you just haven't talked to since 2 employers ago, or haven't talked to in 10 years, but you were thinking about them, it's a great reason to reach out and see how they're doing. And you want to be very genuine about this. You don't want to do a bait and switch where you quickly go into, and I'm looking for a job, can you help me? You definitely don't want to do that. You want to ask them a number of questions about themselves, how they're doing, what have they been doing since you last talked, how are the kids, and really think back to that person when you last talked with them, and then ask them a lot of questions about what's been going on in their lives since then, and how, you know, basically how are things going? How's the present year holding up for them? So it also offers the opportunity to ask for help if you need it. So a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of our top performing clients, they don't like asking for help. No one likes asking for help. You don't want to be in a position of weakness. That sometimes they feel like that's the case, but think about it from your standpoint. If someone that you knew from, like a past colleague from a couple of different departments ago, or a couple of different companies ago, they reach out to you, and after a little while you find out, wow, they're in the job market and they're looking, are you going to feel used? Not necessarily. You would do whatever you could to help that person because you still have fond memories of working with that person. And you also know their capabilities. So connecting with old colleagues is perfect because they know how you work and they can vouch for you. Even though, of course, they're willing to help you, there is very much a sense of we're all in this together. And that usually is a very warm feeling that people bring. And you can start to talk about masks and everybody knows how you feel about them. I mean, everybody feels the same way. So it's just not, I know for me, I tend to rarely get out of the house because I don't like wearing a mask a lot of times, and I've got glasses, and so it fogs it up. And so, you know, everyone's going through facing some sort of hardship this year. And so most people will want to eagerly help you if you ask for help, of course, after catching up and building rapport. So let me go through some of the things that I want to remind you about as far as networking online during COVID. You don't ask for favors from everyone or send a long initial message with complicated requests for help. That still doesn't work. It never worked before COVID. It's not going to work now. Also, since you're not the only person messaging someone in a typical day, focus on writing a great message that is genuine and personal. And it's got to be a message that's more about them than it is about you. And if you do this by following the steps that I'm going to outline with you this morning, then you're going to be able to strengthen your network, and that hopefully will help you find a better job quicker. So the first way to do that is catching up with past colleagues. So, you know, people can see right through if you only message them to ask for a favor, especially if you haven't talked with them in a long time. You know, so you need to, it's not going to work. So what you want to do is start by checking in with them. And then when checking in with an old connection or a past colleague, ask how they're doing. Tell them that you're using some of this time at home to reconnect with past colleagues, and that you hope that they're doing well and they're staying safe. I've got to be honest, some colleagues of mine that I haven't talked to for many years have come back to me to see how I'm doing. As a matter of fact, Katrina Paz was one of those, and I had her as a guest. She was a client of ours a couple of years ago. And since then, we've really reconnected, and it's been great to talk with her. In fact, a lot of our clients become very good close friends of ours. So I really enjoy hearing from past friends, whether they are our clients or not. But I'm getting a lot of that this year, saying, "Hey, I need your help. I want to work with you again." Or, "What can you do for me that doesn't, that's less supportive, but will still get me to where I want to be?" And of course, I'm going to help them in every way I can. So also, I've connected with people that I was best friends with in high school and in college. And, it had been 30 years since we had seen each other. And now we've got regular times that we're set aside to do some Zoom happy hours. It's really fun. And it's reconnecting with old people that you just haven't seen in a long time. So go ahead and take this opportunity, especially during the holiday season, to reach out to old colleagues, find out how they're doing, and making sure they're staying safe. And then, of course, if you message them, if you don't have their direct email, or it's been a long time since you've talked with them and they've moved on to a different company, then perhaps you could message them on LinkedIn. And after they respond and you have a back and forth conversation that's genuine, if they mention anything that sounds like they could use some help with something, then offer to help first. You always offer to do what you can first before asking for help. And then while you can update them on your situation early on in the conversation, I would wait a couple messages at least to ask for any assistance from them. So then after you update them on your situation, for example, you could tell them, "Well, actually, I got laid off recently." Who hasn't? And maybe exchange a few messages. Then you could mention what you need help with. And there are a lot of avenues to take in that respect. So the best strategy, I think, is to begin with a very simple, easy to answer question, like the examples in these next few slides. These are coming up on slides, for instance, 12. So these are some examples of things that you can say after telling them that you've been laid off. So for instance, I have a question. I've been talking with some other colleagues, and it seems that layoffs in my industry have been widespread. So I'm hesitant to search again in the same industry right now. And, it could be a dead end because of that. And do you have any sense of the overall health of your industry at the moment? And is it a field? It's a field that I've considered pivoting into, but I thought you would know a lot better how the industry is doing. From there, you can ask if their company is hiring or if they know any others that are, or you could ask them, really, you could simply go, "Who do you know in your industry that I should be talking with?" And then they could point you in that direction. If they're in the same industry as yours, you could say, "I've heard of quite a few companies in our industry are laying people off. How has your company been so far? I haven't heard of any layoffs from them, so I hope that you've had better luck than I have." And then follow up with asking who in their company you should be talking to, or that should be talking to you. And so, a pro tip that I'd like to leave you with on that is all you need to do is ask for the name of who you should be talking with and their job title and possibly the company, if it's a company other than the company that they work for presently. And all they have to do is give you a name and a job title of a person, and then you can do the rest. The thing is, I've seen many, many times where people have told me, job seekers that I've talked to, and sometimes even clients, before I correct them, they say, "Well, I've got somebody that should be as you are." So be more active in that and let them do the easy work by just stating a name, and then say, "Sounds great. I'll reach out to them. Is it okay if I use your name that you referred me?" Because now this is something else to consider, is that many times there's a signing bonus. So if you're talking to someone, whether they are a new colleague or a new contact or an old colleague, ask if there's a referral bonus in their company. And that way they get paid for just making that reference. So the second thing that you can do, in addition to reaching out to old colleagues, past colleagues, would be to reaching out to new potential colleagues, new contacts. So you may want to connect with new people, including employees at the companies that you'd like to work for, people on LinkedIn who are connected with hiring managers in your industry or in the industry that you're looking at, things like that. So just like in the steps that I talked about for old contacts, the best strategy is to ask for something small and very simple to start. And if you're coming from a different industry, you could explain that you're considering changing industries and then ask if their industry seems to be holding up pretty well during this COVID pandemic. And I've got something on, let's see, slide number 16. I've been working in the travel industry for several years. And as you know, the travel industry has been badly hit by COVID. And I see that you work for financial services, right? So how is the financial services industry doing right now? And then they can fill you in. Or you could ask how their company seems to be handling the pandemic and adapting so far. And you could mention their employer is one of the companies that you thought of applying to, but that you thought it might make sense to ask firsthand how things are going kind of on the inside. And this can get you some good information to use in your job search and also during an interview. And it will also help you work your way towards asking for bigger favors. Like, for instance, do you happen to know the hiring manager for a particular position that I was interested in applying in? And, sometimes these employee referral programs, like I mentioned a moment ago, they pay sometimes averaging, I think, over $1,000. And that's for referring someone who becomes a good employee, who stays, I think they have to stay 90 days to 6 months, and then they get a full 1,000, which is pretty nice. So, make it in the interest of both of you, in the best interest of both of you. Something else too, keep in mind that any ask you make needs to be after you've built rapport with someone new and you're well into the conversation. So if you're, for instance, having a conversation on Zoom, which I always recommend asking for a Zoom conversation rather than a phone conversation because it's more personal. You get to see their body language as well as just what they're saying. And ask if there are any asks. I would do it at least 15 minutes into the conversation after you've built the rapport and you're well into that networking conversation. So now here's some ideas I thought of how to choose how to contact someone. So if you've got someone's email address, that's a great way to get in touch. Otherwise, I recommend using LinkedIn. And people expect to receive work-related messages on LinkedIn. So it provides a good platform for communications. Like I said, people are much more open because of the pandemic. And also now it being the holiday season, they're very open to communication. So you could ask how someone's company is doing, check in with former coworkers, and eventually ask a favor or two in your job hunt. And you want to also think about your industry or your target industry when you're picking the channel for communication. And what I mean by that is, for instance, if you're in the software engineer startup space, Twitter actually may be where your peers are more active versus LinkedIn. So think about where the people that you're looking for communicate, or in the industry that you're looking at communicate, and then use something that is much more in line with how they communicate. So, and there are some places that still have active Facebook groups. So you can always go through Facebook. There are a lot of other, there's a lot of social media places that you can look out there. And so, just LinkedIn's kind of the go-to, at least for me, although, I do spend a good amount of time on YouTube to get news, as well as I like to get information from a lot of different sources. So don't be afraid to try out a new social media that you haven't really been active on for a while. So then let me talk a little bit about the benefits of networking. So if you're following the steps that I've discussed, you're going to learn more about opportunities, including those that that haven't yet been posted online. And then you're also going to have a better idea of which companies and industries to target in your job hunt. So it can actually help you focus your search if you're talking to a lot of people. And remember, this costs nothing. I mean, it's just your time. And if you're working from home and you're taking some time off over the holidays, spend some time reaching out to people. And a message is not intrusive. And you could even do a status update in LinkedIn, but keep in mind that if you do a status update in LinkedIn, that the LinkedIn newsfeed goes by very, very fast. So even if you have thousands of people that you're connected with, they have their people that they're connected with. And if you put a status update, they may or may not see it. Most people are, especially on LinkedIn, they are very habitual in their activity. So they may get on LinkedIn first thing in the morning. They may look at it right before they go to bed. They may look at it during their lunch hour or at the end of the day when they just need to kind of, put that demarcation between their work day and their personal day, which is kind of hard to do when you're working from home all the time. So I would say use LinkedIn. If you're going to do the status update, do it several times. If I send out something, I'm not afraid to put it out there 4 or 5 times a day because of the way that all of this works. If you put something out there right now, it goes out there right now. And then the next time somebody says something, then it gets pushed up and so people don't see it. So, unless something were to go viral, chances are that your connections wouldn't see it. So don't be afraid to put something out there in the morning, in the afternoon, at the end of the workday, and then also in the evening. And that way you're maximizing your chances of getting it taken a look at or getting it looked at. All right. So then most importantly, and I'm kind of wrapping it up here because I've got a call in about 15 minutes. I do want to get this out to you today, by the way. Most importantly, though, you're going to have a better chance at getting interviewed for positions that you do hear about. Hiring managers do prefer to hire someone who comes recommended by someone they know. That's a big deal. In order to be, and you've heard me say this before, in order to be hired, whether there is a lot of other people applying for the position or there's no competition, you have to be someone that is very competent as well as extremely relevant and extremely likable. They want to work with you. They like you. But another threesome that you want to think about is that they really need to feel like they know, like, and trust you. And your trustability quotient goes up hugely if you are recommended by someone they trust, because a referral is the warmest type of lead you can get to a job. And to a hiring manager too, the referral of an employee seems to make you less risky and more likely to succeed because you already have your friend in there to support you. You're not on your own as a brand new employee. All right. So also too, if you are applying to something that's posted, referrals will help you stand out. So if 100 people applied to a job online, they're going to struggle to differentiate themselves. However, if you're the one who sent their resume in through someone the hiring manager knows, then that person dropped your resume off at the hiring manager's desk, and you and your resume are going to stand out versus everyone else. All right. So really the bottom line is that the pandemic has made some things very difficult for job seekers. It's said. But as you know, if you've been listening to me for several months, I've seen job creation this year like I never have before. It is starting to slow down. So I don't know what the first quarter is going to bring. There's a lot of things that are still up in the air, very tumultuous right now in the United States. And I can tell you, though, that consumers are spending more on products than they did last year because they have more disposable income because they're not traveling, they're not taking vacations. And so they're spending more on products, they're spending less on services. But we don't know what this means for the job market, though, going forward. Also, I think that something that I may not have mentioned to you in the past is that since I've been doing this, and I said I've been doing this for 18 years, since I've been in this industry, I've always known job creation or basically the number of hiring to be a lagging indicator of the economy. Well, when the pandemic struck in March and everybody was sent home, it became a leading indicator of the economy and not a lagging indicator. Usually, as a lagging indicator, I could say, okay, as the economy starts to get better, we will start to see the job market get better in 2 to 3 months. It's usually a 2 to 3 month lag between what the economy does and what the job market does. But that's no longer the case. Now, I do believe that after the first of the year, we're going to start seeing I hope, this is my guess. We're going to start seeing the job market become a lagging indicator of the economy again. Right now, it's still a leading indicator, but I'm hoping that in the new year, things will be a little bit different. And so as we go into spring and then into summer, we will see it go back into being a lagging indicator, which it makes it much easier to figure out what the job market is going to be doing, especially if you're looking for a 6-figure or multiple 6-figure job where you're in for a relatively long haul. A lot of our, this year, most of our clients are getting something within 4 to 8 months, but there seems to be a lot of outliers on the short end, which is nice. And they're still getting job offers. As of last week, now this is Monday morning, so as of last week, we're still having people getting job offers. So I'm very happy to see that. So there's still job creation being done in December. So of course, like I said, it's been difficult for job seekers as a whole this year in 2020, but it's also given us and you a great reason to reconnect with past colleagues, especially during the holiday season. And so you would want to ask them how they're doing, or even reach out to new contacts and ask how their company or industry is holding up, and then continue the conversation and very simply and very, very succinctly ask for a very small and simple favor. It could just be the name of someone that you should be talking to. And if you practice these methods and follow the advice, I think you're going to grow your network much faster. And I think you're going to find a job faster during this pandemic, no matter how long it lasts. I can't imagine that next, holiday season, we're going to be in the same predicament. So, something else that I wanted to ask everyone, if I were to do this on Friday, is what are your best networking tips that you'd like to share? I really want to know, what have you found that has worked, especially this year? Anything, whether it's networking or anything that you have particularly found effective in your job search, no matter what it is. I would love for you to just reply to the email that I send out with this. I would love to hear it. And even if it goes to the host of this, which is Webinar Jam, I definitely get an email notification every time somebody replies to it. So I would love to hear what has been working for you. And are you planning on using any of this information that I'm giving you today? Are you planning on using that this holiday season? Do you have some time off that you can spend perhaps even just 1 or 2 people a day? And especially if they're just old colleagues, I'm sure they would love to hear from you and see how you're doing. And of course, ask them how they're doing first as well. All right. Well, that is it for me today. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I think we are at 36 minutes. Not bad. Okay. And I feel it's very quiet here. It's very empty because I don't even have my staff anywhere. It's just me in the video. So I hope you have a wonderful week. I will probably skip this Friday and do next Friday. So that is, if we look at the date, I just want to make sure, the 18th. So that will be our next live stream. The Fire Hose Friday will come back. Fire Hose Friday will come back on the 18th. So yeah. All right. Have a wonderful week. Let me know what's been working for you, especially if you had anything recently in networking or outside of networking that's worked for you. I would love to hear what it is. And if you're finding yourself getting more activity recently versus less, or if it's slowing down, like the numbers say from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I'd love to know that too. Really love to know how things are going. And I missed you guys last week more than you know, because I really prepared for this, but I will send this out to you as soon as possible. And then we will catch up again on the 18th. All right. Happy holidays, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.